This could be a really, really big deal. We're talking like Apple HomeKit users' absolute wet dream. But the problem is it's super mysterious and nobody really knows what it is. Let me explain and give you a few of my theories. So Apple just announced iOS 17.4 and they released like the really early developer beta, so some people have access to it now. Along with iOS, they released the new tvOS. They always do this. People also have developer access to this. As they do, the developers are poking around in the code for the new tvOS, and they kept seeing something called HomeOS referenced. We don't really know much about this at all, aside from the name being referenced in the code a bunch of times, but I have some theories that I think will probably be correct on what this is going to actually pan out to be. Okay, there's really only two ways to interact with it. One is through the Apple Home app, which runs natively on all Apple. Then you have HomePods, which you can put voice commands into. These run HomePod OS. So that's great and all, but one thing I've always said that Apple HomeKit is missing out on big time, and Amazon Alexa does so much better, is display-based devices. Basically a device with a display usually attached to a smart speaker, which you could do things like control all the things in your smart home, whether that's your lights, whether you're monitoring cameras, that's a really big one, and just a nice central hub to control things from. On top of that, having it as just a central visual hub for like news, alarms, weather, your calendar, I absolutely love devices like this. I think they add a lot of value to a smart home, and Apple just doesn't have anything like this. Like Alexa even has these big 15-inch ones, which you can put like in the entranceway of your house, and you can see all of your smart home devices all on one big screen at once. Again, I think this is such an incredible experience and you just can't get it with Apple. I think HomeOS is going to be servicing this type of devices. And a lot of people are on board with me with this one. Somebody's already mocked up this kind of like HomePod, iPad running Apple TV type of thing. I don't know, but I think we're going to start seeing something along the lines of this over the next few years. This could also be a sign that Apple's taking home devices a little bit more seriously. Maybe we'll start seeing like Apple fridges, like the Samsung Smart Fridge, or like Apple dishwashers, or I don't know, and maybe all these devices are going to be running HomeOS. I don't know, but I think whatever it means, it's all going in a very positive direction for the future of Apple HomeKit. At the very, very least, I think it means that the Home app and the Home ecosystem is getting an overhaul. Even if it's staying exactly as it is, that would be more than welcome. I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts, or if you have any insider info on what this might mean. Other than that, you know I'm going to be keeping you updated because this is right up my alley. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you in the next video. This is one of the most unique and genuinely useful smart home devices I've added to my home in quite some time now. And there's so many cool ways you could automate it as well, but first let me explain what this thing even is. So this thing is actually a smart humidifier, and it's from a company called Are Versa. If you don't know what a humidifier is, it's an appliance that you fill up with water and it basically just adds humidity to the air. If you live in a drier climate, having one or even multiple of these in your house is pretty much a must-have. So normal humidifiers you just kind of turn on and off, but the smart ones give you a surprising amount of functionality. First thing you're going to be able to do is select the exact humidity percentage you want your room set to in your smart home. You could do this in the app or with your voice assistant. Another feature that really ended up selling me is you don't just get the humidifier, but you also get a humidity sensor and a temperature sensor that you get separate access to in your smart home. I like to have temperature and humidity sensors in every single room of my smart home, and normally I buy them separately. So the fact that they're integrated with this already is a huge bonus. On top of that, it has this really cool RGB light underneath that shows up as a separate smart light that you could independently control. This is actually really nice. You could even do like all sorts of crazy lighting effects if you're into that from their native app. I actually use this thing as a mood lighting / nightlight type of thing in the bedroom because it's so subtle, it looks incredible, and then it's also super functional with the humidifier. Especially when you look at other humidifiers and they're like big appliance looking things, aesthetically this thing wins out huge. So every few days you have to refill these tanks with water. With a normal humidifier, people just leave it running around the clock, so you have to refill it like every few days and it's kind of a pain. But with this baby, I use two simple automations that make this whole thing way more efficient. This one's pretty simple. Whenever everybody leaves the house, it just turns off, so it's not adding humidity when no one's around and it doesn't matter. This alone made it so I only had to fill this thing up like half the time I did before. And another one I did is at late at night when we're normally sleeping and don't really care as much about the climate, it shuts off then as well. Having these two automations implemented alone made it so when I was around and actually cared, the air was exactly how I liked it, but I didn't have to refill this thing nearly as much. I'm only refilling it like once a week, but it's still operating exactly as I would want it if I didn't turn it off at all at any time. The second automation I'm using every single day, and why we actually have this thing in our bedroom, is I found that every morning and late at night when I'm either falling asleep or getting out of bed, that's when the dry air affects me the most. And I found by turning up the humidity, so it's not just toggling this thing on and off in your smart home, I raise the humidity by an additional 20% in the hour that I'm going to bed and an hour after I wake up. And I'm telling you, it makes such a big difference for how you fall asleep as well as how happy you are when you wake up. This was a big game changer for me. Lastly, this one's kind of unique. If you have plants that really like humidity and you're leaving for a few days, you could actually place one of these near your plants and either set it up on a schedule, so every few days you could output humidity, or just do it manually to make sure the your plants are happy. I know this is something that a lot of people use these things for, and having that granular control over your phone when you're not around could be a really big way to keep them up and happy. Anyway, this is a smart device that I didn't expect to love nearly as much as I did, and it's earned a dedicated spot in my smart home. The very best part about this thing is it is built on Thread, which means it's compatible with Apple HomeKit, and even better, Thread operates entirely offline, so you don't need to worry about your data going anywhere external. Big fan of this thing. Once again, it's from a company called Are Versa. I will have a link directly to it in my bio there. They did also send this over to me, full disclosure, but that doesn't affect my opinions or comments in this video at all whatsoever. I just ended up really liking it. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this. Let me know if a humidifier is something you guys use in your day-to-day and if a smart one would actually make a difference. I found this thing was pretty cool. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you in the next video, and I hope you have a great day.